Now we brought the teacher here, I'm really nervous.
You don't know me well. No pressure.
So I'll bring you and Dennis up to speed because last week actually the room was full.
Yeah.
On what this is and what we've kind of come to and the stance and all of these things and why and the hows and what it has left us with. But let me hand out my homework.
Did you see this?
He just handed it.
Oh, okay. So you have them.
And yes, Jody, I put your corrections in there.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
And Brazil.
Thank you. Good.
I think you got, I got your intent page. Somehow I messed up. Should be 3 pages each.
I have.
Oh, you do? Huh?
1, 2.
1, 2. That's yours. It goes like that. Maybe I
Okay.
grabbed the wrong ones.
Oh, thank you.
Should have, do you have an intent? Somehow that's supposed to be on top. Okay, that's supposed to be. So, do you have an intent? Oh, you got 3. You got 3. Yep, okay, we're good.
No, I know, I'm somewhat startled by the turnout.
That's okay, I think we'll be productive. So, the last workshop we had last week, we all went over everything again, you know, all of the situations, the scenarios, the possibilities, and the group actually came and said, you know, this way forward of a new building is the most economical and makes the most sense for the future. But what it also did was, has separated us needing a new town office, or a town office, and what we do with the old building. So it leaves the old building still in the municipality's hands and in control, and by us building a new one, lets the town decide what to do with that building, if and when we go on forward with voting for a new build. So it doesn't, it's still in the town's hands to decide what happens to that building. But it also this option gives us longevity to have a new building, use congressionally designated spending, and not have to burden the taxpayer with an increase in taxes going forward. And that, so we we had to separate it, but by separating it, we're actually getting a new building, and we still get to control the fate of what happens to the old municipal building. So that's kind of where we're at now. And that was last week's general consensus that, hey, this is the best thing, and so let's start to educate the voter and the town residents on going forward, and what does that mean. And that's what the little briefing that I put together speaks of. And you know, again, this is just me, but I always put the intent, purpose, and end state up. That's just, it's embedded in me, and I feel that I do that just because it drives my direction. I don't get squirrely. So what we're trying to do tonight is refine this educational brief so that we're ready to educate at a hearing and informational workshop on the 27th of November, so that residents can come in and we can educate them and explain how we came up to this and what it means and what going forward means. And then we can have, you know, questions and answers and things like that. So that way we're keeping them abreast to what is going on so that they know when they go to vote, do you want to vote yes for a new building or do you want to vote no for a new building? And then they can make their own decision at that point. And that's what that is all about. And the 16th of December would be the vote. So that's how we got to that. I just had a thought. Also, letter of support. I felt like if we drafted a letter of support by residents that, you know, say, yes, I support, you know, going for congressionally designated spending. And since it's not gonna be a cost out of taxpayers' cost for a new build, and we're gonna attempt and request for this money, I support this approach to going forward. So that's what the letter of support is. It, you know, it's been looked at three times now, I think. And if we can kind of just go through it with one last reading, I think I would be all set to go forward. Not mandatory to sign. It's just a letter of support that, you know, I think that going forward, and the reason is for individuals and entities and businesses of the town, for other residents to see that, you know, these people were involved in this process, and they did have a voice, and they all spoke, and they all got to be heard, and we came to the table and realized, going forward, maybe financially, this is for the best. So any questions to date for me?
Just one question. As far as the letter of support, and I know that you wanted to go through that letter of support. I have not seen this. But the question is, should it be to the town of Sangerville or should it be to Susan Collins' office? I don't know.
So this is how I was thinking about it. Is I would write a blanket letter to Susan Collins' office as the town manager or municipal officer of Sangerville. And the letters of support would be enclosures of that one blanket letter.
Okay.
To say, here's where we all came, and you know, no, we didn't argue. This wasn't Angerville for once. This was actually a really great product that we walked through and we all listened and we all heard and, you know.
So this is a subset of the greater one letter that goes to Susan Collins. Okay.
Yeah.
Give her one big package.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'll write. I'll go back because I have, you know, Army regulation on how to address Senator Collins'
Sure.
office in a formality, not just.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
here comes.
Yeah.
Billy Bob.
Hey, Sue.
Yeah. The Honorable Susan Collins,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Hey Sue, how you doing?
Yeah. No, I just wasn't sure, but that makes sense. That makes sense.
So then also last week we decided that during the educational piece on the 27th of November, and I'm not briefing, and none of the officials are briefing. We want somebody in town to brief. But it really doesn't have to be less, but you know, somebody that there's some transparency there. There's that level of somebody that was involved in the whole process, and you know, it cuts us out of there. So it looks like, and it was, because it doesn't look like it was a bigger team effort going forward. So that's been pretty much decided that, and you know, questions and answers, I'll have stuff on the side in case something comes up. But I think in this room now, we actually have a good quorum for citizens if they want to partake in getting this ready for the 27th. to the point of, hey, look, we did sit through all this, and we did have, you know, and get this so it's a place where residents get to be educated, and they get to make that decision, and they're ready to vote on the 16th, and they have it, it's up to them. That's where I'm at.
How are you going to get these out to everyone?
So, my great town clerk today, my right hand, is suggesting that we make the announcement for the public hearing and the vote on this, and then we mail it to every citizen. So that every citizen gets this mailed to them with the hearing date, public hearing date, and the vote date. And maybe some, you know, small synopsis of, you know, at the bottom. But that's what she wants to do, and I think it's an actual great idea.
We talked about in the last meeting that the expense for postage, but how effective her suggestion would be relative to, say, running an ad in the newspaper, which we don't know who subscribes to that newspaper.
Right.
This way, it probably was a better bang for your buck to pay the postage and,
Yeah.
and make sure everybody.
There's a lot more thought behind us doing it with the mailing and that, and sending everything in one piece of paper than something in the classifieds. There's more of a, we want you involved in this decision process.
It makes it transparent.
Yeah.
It does, and the fact
You're not
that,
leaving
I-
it.
And I think it's important.
yeah, definitely.
And it will get to every citizen through a mailing, as opposed to trying to blanket several newspapers.
Yeah.
Even social media,
What's
there's so
that
many
in there?
people who don't use it.
Right.
Correct.
And it's a uniform, every citizen,
Exactly.
it went
Right.
to mail.
Equitable.
It's presumed to be,
Yes.
you know, delivered to
Yeah,
them.
yep,
And the other point is, you know, you don't get much mail anymore, so it's exciting.
yeah, right, exactly,
Right.
yeah,
Like a Christmas present.
yeah, like, wow, something associates.
And it'll get to everyone approximately at the same time,
That's
Yeah.
true too.
Yeah.
which is very important.
Because we want, I want a full house at the workshop for the information. Because I want everybody to realize that, you know, this new build is not the decision on what goes on with the old building. That is a decision to be made by another work group that comes along and vets everything and puts it out again for vote, so that the citizens making that vote on what goes forward. So I think that's where it needs to be defined and cleared, so.
Yeah, as long as they understand that, you know, everyone as a collective gets to decide on what happens to the
Mhm.
building,
Yeah.
you know, so it's more like,
So I think.
oh, if I do this, they're gonna tear down the building. No,
Yeah.
if we're gonna build a new building, we're still gonna decide what, it's, you
Right.
might still tear down the building, but we're gonna decide together what we're gonna do.
Right, and so on this, one slider that I put together that kind of discusses that, maybe I need to put that in there, that this isn't a decision on what takes place with that building.
I think that's very
It
important.
never, you know, it never hurts to reinforce the message. And I think the other thing is to point out the process itself, that there will be a separate parallel process to decide what happens with the old town hall. So if you like this process, everybody's getting informed, you can't complain about it, and the same thing is gonna happen again when it comes to the old town.
And then maybe during the vote, we can collect names of folks that wanna be involved with deciding on what to do.
I'll see y'all here next week. I already have my Rolodex, so I know who's involved.
We did kind of talk about that last week, the fact that there was other money that could be applied for separately later for that building, but that would have to be a separate
Right, leeway, make sure it's not
Completely
money.
different parts.
bucket of money.
Yeah, so
Yep.
so now the intent is to solidify the date and time for the we'll workshop alternate dates because we're getting into snow. I know Michelle's gonna start getting notifications out and posting this stuff, so she started to ramp this up, but.
It's not too early.
Right. And then the whoever it is gonna be on education, maybe it's not one person, maybe it is one or two people that are on the panel that sits up in front of everybody to kind of field this. And then I'd like to try to lock those in tonight as we go forward, and then QC this one slide. And then that group, we work together, or even whoever's in this room, maybe one or two more times to make sure that this is the product we want going out. This is just my brain, so if it's only me doing it, then I'm the smartest person in the room and we've all hit failure.
I'm wondering if, when a person receives this, if there should be a list of, it could just be you, it could be Leslie, it could be one of the selectmen, it could be all the selectmen, where essentially if you have questions regarding this mailing, these are the numbers and people that you might reach out to.
Yeah.
Cover letter.
Yeah.
And yes, this letter of support should not be the first sheet that they open to.
Yeah, because that might be
It's
confusing.
be totally out of context
Right,
for some
right,
people.
yeah.
That's right.
So we want a cover sheet.
They won't even know what we're talking about.
Some won't.
I mean, I haven't.
Some won't even know, right.
Has
So-
That
We
this
have
is
couple.
Right? So I wondered if I broke this into thirds, right? And then you have your mailing. And then, that's the address. Cover letter with POCs,
With POC?
point of contact. Like one of whoever it is that, and then the dates of importance. And that way we can still keep it on one sheet of paper, but when they open it, they're getting,
Overview.
Yeah.
What, in fact,
Introduction.
yeah.
What they, okay.
and make this header in red.
That might cost a little.
Well, not only that, you also have to have return postage. Based
Oh, are
on-
you anticipating that
Well,
people
it's-
are gonna sign
It
this?
says, it asks them to.
Oh,
Can we do this during voting? Have it
Instead of
set up for just.
So take the signature out of there and the letter of support, and just have the cover letter.
The letter of support, I was imagining more of entities like the Historical Society or Haley's, or, the fire department.
blocks.
Yeah, blocks, as
Blocks.
opposed to one,
Individuals.
Senator Davis. People or entities, like you said, blocks, as opposed to soliciting 1,100 signatures. But anybody who wanted to sign, that would be great, but.
I think, so let's have this as a cover letter, right? Take this off and have the cover letter and then the mailing and the dates, like we said. And like you said, at the vote or at the informational brief, just have
Bring
letters
it
of
with you.
support already in this same format,
Yeah.
in the same format.
Want to sign it, here it is.
If you wanna sign it.
Right.
Inform them first.
Right,
Right?
yeah.
Oh, absolutely, you're right, yeah.
That's right, I think at the end of the informational meeting, it maybe people will be prepared to then
To
go
sign
ahead and
something.
sign.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, so this doesn't even need to be included.
No, just some of the
Yeah.
Same, put the
Yeah.
information
Right.
in there, it's just.
I
Right,
mean, what this really is about is uncovering objections,
yeah,
right,
more than soliciting, as equal to soliciting
Yeah.
support.
yeah.
Because we want to avoid that.
Yeah, so I think I'll maybe water down a little bit of this.
Simplify.
Right,
I have two immediate reactions to it, to address to it in the background. Because you skipped the basic, the very most important part. The insurers inspected it. then we've lost it. We gotta tell them why we lost it, because the building's falling down.
If they're gonna ask.
Yeah, I mean, simplify it, tell them directly, make sure, connect the dots.
Yeah.
How do we know it's falling down? Because the insurance inspectors told us that, and they canceled the insurance.
And there's some history that we can make available to you that goes back to 2019 and again, so you'll have all that.
And I was gonna say too, in terms of the building, at some point it says fixing the old building is too expensive. We gotta throw out some sort of dollar figure there. Whether it's a range of 4 to 12 million, you know, if you don't have.
Right, what
if
is
you're
too
not prepared-
expensive?
Right, because then it's gonna be, well, can we do it for 400,000? No. Can we do it for $1 million? No.
Well, one of the things that was news to me was, and I think it was Mr. Campbell, he remembered when they had town meetings there. This,
On the second story.
yeah,
Yes.
that's
And
way
lost.
prior to, so like 15 or 20 years ago.
20,
longer
was
ago
it
than
20?
that.
Yeah.
He said 20.
And it was a code violation that shut it down. I didn't know that.
We would go to town meetings for years, and it
Yeah.
was
On the second
way
story.
longer than now. I've never been to one, it was always in the fire station, since I've been going to town meetings.
So the code violation made the upstairs essentially useless. That isn't what drove any of this. What drove this was a failure in the foundation and damage to the first floor. And those numbers by themselves are approaching $1 million. And that hasn't addressed anything else. So that's kind of what basically kind of put that on one side, and now, okay, let's look for other solutions.
Right, and circle
And
back.
I didn't, none of us even knew about the code
second-
violation.
Second
So-
story, right.
Do we know what were the code violations?
I don't know. Mr. Campbell said that he remembers the last meeting they went to. Somebody actually was in a wheelchair, and a group of people picked him up and took him upstairs. That was
Yeah.
ADA compliance would be an
ADA
issue
compliance,
there. And it sounded like the balcony itself may have some
It's-
issues.
its current situation is yeah.
It may have had for some time.
But that wasn't used at the town meeting.
The problem
Yeah,
is if it could bug you and it can fall down.
Yeah,
I think it was additional weight that was gonna make the issue.
But it quickly becomes much more comprehensive than
right, just what we
a crack
were
in the
dealing
brick.
with. Right.
It's not that.
Just
Right.
like owning a house.
Exactly right. Just a really big one.
Big one.
Big old house.
A lot of the rooms haven't been used for a long time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do believe, though, that choice of words is going to be important. If you say the building is falling down, you're immediately going to get a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You've got to make it's structurally unsound in these ways that are going to cost this amount.
So I have, this has been on the back of my mind, and I'm gonna digress, and I'm sorry. For everyone that was, we don't have insurance on there, but we can still go in there and work. So it's okay to have the town employees work in a hazardous environment that has been deemed unsafe. That's just always been in the back of my head, that, it's okay. for
Well,
me
then you
to
have
go
the
in.
public going in there to see
Right.
the office.
Now, I digress, and I'm sorry. Now, going forward, we've been able to do this separation of that building and the new building going forward. And again, this is a prime example of even this small group here, of why we've been able to come to this, hey, we're at this point, let's do this. Let's inform everybody and do a vote. And we're not giving up building, we did get a work group, so. Anything else in this that I need to doctor up? Because I'm gonna probably, if this group, especially you five, because I know these two will.
They don't have any choice. We
Right,
have to.
right. Want to be, deeply involved the next week or two before we get to the information, even if it's just QC and some of this stuff, or keep going through these thought processes, even if we have to meet a couple more times before then, to just do this, red ink stuff. That's kind of where I'm at now, is just got to red ink it.
I wish I could, but I have a small surgery that I have on Thursday, and I know I won't be able to do anything for a few days.
Sure.
But as soon as I can get back to it, I'll be glad to be.
I'll just give Mike the information. You get it. Dude, would you want to be in on any of the sitting in QCN or?
I'm around, if I can do anything, I'll.
Oh, I think you can. I think you'd be a good person to have off, you know, even just giving input and insight. And then we have a good group of, I guess it would be nice to have a nice panel of 4 people. You 4 would be perfect panel, right? To be able to sit up there and educate on how we came to this. And, you know, the old building is gonna cost a lot to fix. And, you know, we do think that we can come up with a working group, or we will come up with a working group to go forward and how that guides this, but now we need to guide this. And I think it's important that if we had a panel of 4 individuals, and if not, and we had 3, then that's, you know, we still gotta do that. Might not be.
Yeah.
You agree, Diane?
Yeah,
You agree with me?
I like stepping in all kinds of stuff, so.
I got a lab. So, general consensus is I doctored this up to be a cover letter. And then mail it, and then on the back, and then we go with your idea, have these ready at the informational brief and the voting, just to show, you know, Senator Collins' office that we're ready to go forward. Now for educational tabletop. Right away, I see your comment, too expensive, I need a $sign in there.
Which page are we on, Patrick?
New build.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in the top left-hand corner, where it says how we got here.
Okay.
Those are just some major bullet points that, you know, people are gonna say, well, what about A.E. Robinson?
Yeah.
Well, if we purchase it, we don't get congressionally designated spending, and we have to spend $100,000 to $200,000 for infrastructure and walls in there, and IT stuff.
Yeah.
And you pull,
Tax.
yeah,
roll,
a
something off the tax-
$350,000 property off
Yeah.
the revenue.
So-
Our tax roll.
I think, do I need to make those bullet points, or do I need
No,
to make
no.
those talking points?
That's,
Yeah, that's just,
So we need to come up with talking points. Operational cost, the 1 hash above, I think I need to go back and see if I can find how much it costs for just heating oil in that building. You know, what is that operational cost compared to what it would be going in the future?
Yeah, it'd be good to have a total and the heating cost. That way you can say the total
I
cost
mean,
is this,
well, I
of which
mean,
just,
it
the
was,
last year that we were there, like, he was over 10,000.
yeah, you can just look at the last year that we were there, just look at the
Yeah, and if it was 10,000 and the heat was only on for 6 months,
Yeah.
for three people.
3 people.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous, isn't
Mm-hmm.
And we have those as bullet points, or do you want those upfront points?
I don't think they need to be bullet points,
Just talking
all
points.
those details.
Just talking points?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just,
keep it simple.
yeah, I think so.
Keep it simple, because we sit and think about this stuff all day long, but there's a large percentage of people,
That
it's
don't.
gonna be the first time they've ever thought about it.
it?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you may not even be aware the town offices have moved out of the old town hall.
Right.
So that'll be where the panel, you know, whoever's this.
To be informed. The
So,
panel needs to be
yeah,
informed.
that's who needs the talking notes and the talking points. Funding, I just put bullet points or major, items on there that a new building, comes with. We don't need a loan or a bond. No increase to mill rate or taxes to build.
I think what you need to do is clarify what you mean by funding.
Streams of funding, or
Just, when you say funding, what does that mean? We're talking,
How are we paying for it?
right,
yes, because I did have,
How we got here?
I actually took that out. So, reserve, funded, on hand.
And that reserve is the 15% if we were to get the funding through the CDS?
So, that's why I put down in the CDS, for example, it's 15, our cost is 15 cents on the dollar. So if the building costs 400 to build, we gotta come up with 60,000. And then the CDS would come up with the 340. If we didn't get any of that, we'd still have enough to be able to pay for the build, and it still wouldn't cause a loan or a bond or any of that.
Is it going to exhaust the reserve funds?
No.
That's an important point to make because some people are going to ask that question. If we have some kind of a financial emergency in the town,
I'm wondering-
Under the CDS that do we need to say?
I put that in the,
Dissension, because I mean, that may give
I wonder if I
some
put that in
fodder
the,
to say,
in
well,
Yeah,
I
it's
want to be
almost
there
like
more.
tempting.
Yeah, so,
Where do you
The only
want it
one
right
that
up
comes to
front?
mind on that, but we'll have to deal with that.
I mean, one outlier, I don't think is a.
I don't understand under the cost what that all means.
So that's just cost per foot, and if we do
Okay,
option one at 1,500 square feet, that's how much it would cost, is 435.
okay.
Maybe I just options one, and then instead of cost, you do option two. And then it breaks them out separately.
I would just really simplify it. Option one, smaller building, 1,584 square feet at 275
Yeah.
square foot.
Yes.
Total cost would be
Yes.
435.
Yes,
CDS pays 85% of it, cost to the town will be. Just done that way.
Okay.
Make it really clear and simple.
Yep.
I spent
Yeah.
a lot of
So,
time
Just
writing for non-English speakers.
Yeah, it's,
and that's the other thing too, is we do have to consider, many people in the state of Maine have an 8th grade reading level or below. So, like this cover letter is gonna sink a lot of people and they're not gonna even, you've got to make it readable.
Okay.
I can help with that.
that'd be good.
Yeah. No, I mean,
But that's an important thing. If they can't read it, they're not gonna bother trying to decipher it.
sure.
And if it's more simple it is in terms of this is what option one means, instead of having to do a mix and match,
Yeah,
the better.
lots of space,
Yep.
numbered lists.
So I'll, instead of having a cost, I'll just make that option two, so that they're separated, and then I'll do exactly what you said. I'll put in, this is the cost if we get congressionally designated funds. And probably I can take out, the bullet points under each one of them, requires future build, blah, 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 all of that, take that out.
Right.
Those are just talking points if we need them later on.
Yeah, keep it
Because
really
somebody's gonna ask,
simple.
even if you put this on here, somebody's first question is gonna be, what's the difference between option one and option two? So,
It's it, when we, over the course of the meetings, yeah, I never got the sense there was much appetite for option two.
No,
There was never a lot of,
But we didn't talk about the fact that this is the one-time deal that we're gonna get this money. And if we could get the building that's going to meet our needs for the next 100 years, including a place where everybody can vote, we don't have to go, some people don't even like being in the building that we're using.
If there's free money on the table.
It's
they pay
free
back.
money, and if we can
Sop up the
afford
gravy while the
the,
biscuits are hot.
The one
our
thing,
15%,
the one thing to consider though is, in order to apply for these funds, it has to be approved.
that's what I mean.
And so you're taking a risk. If
Oh,
this,
there's a good point.
if option one doesn't get funding,
Pass.
we still end up having to pay for a town office that we absolutely need. That's okay, we can live with that. If
can
option
afford it.
2 passes, and we are not able to secure congressional funding, we
We
have
can't
depleted.
afford it.
We really can't, we would then have to borrow some money.
Okay.
Right,
That's-
right,
okay.
right.
It's a little bit beyond our means.
How sure are we of this congressional funding?
I mean, with what's going on in the world right now, I
This Greenville got a building, Milo got a building,
Yeah.
so they're like, we're surrounded with them.
When I-
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's,
When I
that's
called,
what
when
we're
I
talking about.
called the office, and Jody's called many times and spoken with them, they indicated to me that it's a high priority for, her office is a high priority, Sangerville is.
Maine actually had a kind of a unique status in the amount of earmarks that she was able to secure. We're one of the highest in the nation.
yeah.
I have kind of a chicken and egg question. Do we have to get approval from the town before we can get the, okay?
Yes.
In fact, that was
Yes.
one
Yes.
I was just
of
wondering if we're
those.
getting
That's why we're doing it,
approval.
that's why we really want to get it into calendar year 23.
Yes.
Because that sets us back a whole year if we don't,
And
are able to do
I
that.
know I've said it many, many times, but it was stressed to me emphatically from the office that if there is verbal dissension, it will not be approved. We will not get the money. So to the point where if you feel like there's gonna be a faction of people that are verbally dissenting, don't want this, then don't even apply because you don't try to apply twice.
She does not want her name on
Right,
an argument.
And
Right.
angry.
and yeah,
On
yeah.
Angerville.
She is not gonna, so that's why there's so much importance as far as 100% support. I mean, you get one outlier that says, I don't think we should do this, okay, fine. But if you get a block of, or a group that is dissatisfied for some reason, decides, oh, let's vote against this, it's not gonna happen, and it will never happen in the future.
Yeah, so we've got to be conscious of two things, the process and the end result.
Yes,
And we've got to make sure the process is open and transparent
Yeah.
and documented and so forth.
yes.
And let people know that this is the same sort of process, maybe not exactly, but the same sort of process that will happen when it comes to considering the open town hall.
Dennis had a question.
From my perspective, the option one presented to the town should be a slam dunk. I can't picture too many people raising their hackles about that.
Sure.
It seems the easiest solution of anything. When you double the size of that, I can see people drawing back on that, well, we don't need that, and da-da-da-da-da-da. I would go for the easy one, for the slam dunk, rather than
Maybe just
rather than risking the issue.
Point two.
Maybe just one option and keep it simple.
Then nobody's got to argue about the size.
I have two thoughts about that.
Okay.
But you know, in negotiation, it never hurts to have something to give away.
Well, that's
Because we could present this, but you know, frankly, we all look at it and we don't think it's worth the money.
Yeah.
Or could we position it where we're ranking it, where
Well, could we do that?
choice one, choice two, if we don't get this, we've got a fallback of the small one.
We have recently we passed an ordinance on the solar, commercial solar. And the way we presented that, we paired it with a moratorium. So when it was presented at town, if the ordinance didn't pass, the next question would be the moratorium, so that it would at least buy us more time to find an ordinance that would pass. The ordinance passed, so then we were able to pass over the next question. The process in town meeting can be a little clunky. How do you pass the first one and then look at the second one? There's a way to do that, but, or you certainly, you could reject option 2 first. I mean, now I was getting, we take the second one first so we can look at, so we have to be aware of the sequencing and how you get there.
Option 2 can be option 1.
It
Yeah,
could
well,
be.
there you go.
but-
There you
You're
go.
right, that, you know,
That's a good
that's a, you know, it's gonna be more of a, well, we're only gonna end up spending $60,000
Right.
but how do we do the option, you know, if, how do we table the larger of the two, and if that doesn't go through, how do we ensure that? the
Any
select-
article can be reduced, it can't be raised. So you could have one article that is the entire project, okay? Annual meeting room, how many square feet is the?
3,300.
That's, or, and then you could make a motion, what if we just did an office? What would that reduce it to? And you've got those numbers, so you can bring it down and work off on one question. Is that more confusing? I don't know that, but that's, you're allowed to lower numbers, you cannot raise numbers.
And so, I go back to the problem statement is we need a town office. Is that a town office in a conference room, in a meeting room? And these are just, this is me speaking out loud, right? Because the problem statement is we need an office. So I agree, you know, as nice as it would be to have our voting and all of that stuff, and we're meeting the intent of getting after the problem statement by saying $400,000 for option 1, and we get our meeting, you know, we get our town manager office and all that stuff.
The one thing that there are people who do not go to town meetings because they're in a church. They are looking for a place that is in no way tied to any kind of religious building.
Sure.
And option 2 offers that option to people. That's what they're looking for, because they'll look at option 1 and say, well, it still doesn't give us a place to meet.
Well, that's true.
And it sticks in the craw. I mean, I'll go to town meetings because I go to town meetings. Well, I don't, you know. But there are people that will lay down in front of the train on that principle of not going to enter a religious building in order to have a town meeting, period.
Well, I guess then is it up to me to, if we don't present that, to come up with an alternative meeting place?
Well, we do have an alternative.
School.
The school is as much ours as it is anybody else in the SAD. But that's also true with the old town hall. If we were still in there, that problem still existed because you couldn't go upstairs.
Right.
So,
But we had them here. And we had really full town meetings.
and we
here.
could decide to have them here again.
Yeah, yeah. we could.
Or, I don't know, I mean, is it even plausible to have them in the Public Works building? If you could have them in here, I mean, if that thing's emptied out.
There's not even any heat in there other than that.
No.
No, it's no.
I mean, I would even encourage this meeting, this informational meeting, to be here, to get a full docket of citizens.
What are the facilities at the school? And do we gain any advantage by doing it there where it is somewhat separate from the town in a secular facility? But, I mean, the people who are going to attend this meeting are going to be people who really care about the issue. If they have to drive all the way to Guilford.
And that's what they'll say.
What about the range halls? Are they not big enough?
I know the school, at some point we looked into it for something, and Maybe it was before your select board.
We never, the school,
It was.
coordination is a real problem.
Right.
A basketball game, you got a PTA, you
Well, it
got,
was during COVID that we started
Yep.
looking into that stuff, and it was like cleaning it.
and there were expenses.
Yes.
Janitorial, all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Anyone got a big house?
Honestly, the attendance at the community room at Grace Bible has been very high relative to when we were doing them at the fire station. I mean, the number of people, total people, was roughly in the 80s on a good week.
But
And
like Diane says, there are people that would like to come, but they won't.
right, but what I'm saying is the net number at the fire station versus was about the same.
Yeah. But, you know, when it comes to it, they've got a choice. There aren't that many facilities in towns. They can either be involved to the extent, if they really don't like having it in a church, then come and vote to give us a place to move things out of the church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or don't. I don't know.
Well, the informational thing, Diane, addressing what you said, is going to be here.
Yes, the
So-
informational workshop is here.
Okay, good. In this,
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
we can put a lot of people.
that's some stuff that Matt and I are gonna have to work through, and obviously.
If you were to build the double-sized building, okay, so it'll hold 150 people for town meeting. What's it do the rest of the year?
That's a good question.
Zero.
You've gotta keep it, you've gotta keep it heated
Yes.
and.
So you're-
Maintain it,
yeah,
put a roof
Go back
over
to
it.
square one.
Yep, pay-
If I need to rent a compactor for one day, I'll go pay $50 and rent it for one day.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
spend $1,500 for one that I'm gonna only use one day a year.
Yep, and then store it.
Yep,
No, and the situation of the community room up there is so attractive financially. They literally, we've actually solicited a bill from them. They won't
They
bill
will
us.
not bill us.
They will not bill us. They won't let us pay for cleaning. They donate it to the town, is what they do.
so,
I don't understand you know, hey, I'm a retired preacher, you know, I don't understand the business of people that won't go into a church, but, you know.
Well, and it's interesting to me that the fact that the state approves it for a voting venue. You know, you would think that the state, if it were not something that was palatable to it would have to be palatable to everybody, you'd say the state would not approve it for voting.
It isn't the religious part of it. It's a story that I've heard that goes back a long way, and it's personal feelings,
It's a rift.
right, that started many years ago, and they are locked just like they won't have.
Well, except,
so to go back to your
Unfortunately.
point, do we just focus on option one as and that's gonna be pretty much a guarantee, because if we can pay for it with or without, and there's no ifs or buts, and then I guess somehow I need to engage in the other issues of the future of meetings and town meetings and what that, that's just, what do I table option two?
I think what we need to do is, really, we have 5 options. There is, stay in the town, the existing town, doesn't work. Stay in the rental property we're in now, doesn't work. Build something, or buy an existing property in town, whether it's the church or the A.E. Robinson, doesn't work. Option 2, the bigger town hall, doesn't really work because of the extra cost. What we're left with? Option 1.
and that's really what the committee's landed on, what you just did.
Yeah, you just
So,
gotta
but
walk them through the decision.
So somewhere, so how we got here, I need to elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah, so really, I would say, orient this the other way, make it more a chronological approach. Where we are, what we can do,
Decision tree.
what's gonna happen with each of these, decision tree.
as opposed to making a decision for the town,
Yeah.
So
allow them to make the decision knowing all the options.
and provide them the.
And I think
they
that,
can
I was
inform
gonna
this
say,
issue.
So this is, and that's the whole intent of this, is to provide them that moment of education,
Yeah,
you know? And so when we go up to the warrant, you're gonna see,
Yeah, this reminds me kind of the budget process, because that's, you have a budget committee, and they recommend X for the park. And then the select board does their view of it, they recommend, and if they both recommend the same thing, that's pretty powerful when you go to town meeting. Because like, okay, if both the committee and so that we have this committee that's worked now 4 times. If we're all aligned with, these were the 5 things that we started with, and now we're down to this, that's a reasonable,
we're all singing from the same.
but how we
Yep.
got here is.
that's how we got here, and that's why tonight, this is, you can vote for this, or you can vote against it.
Yeah.
And-
You got time to think about it?
Yep.
Go home and.
So I gotta keep options 1 and 2 on this piece as the information. And then when we do the warrant,
It will be 1.
it would be 1, which is the guarantee.
Yeah, but it also gives us some time to see reaction at the meeting and afterwards.
Yep.
Right, there may be no reaction, there may be everybody, it may be a consensus,
Yeah.
and titrated right down to option 1.
Or it may be, we need option 2, we need option 2.
Well, and it was funny because
Yeah.
the discussion that you just had, you could see that happening, like, boy, it would be nice,
Yeah.
but really, we gonna spend that much? Nah, I don't think so, and then, so it kind of progressed that way.
Right.
On the town meeting on the warrant, you'll have a budget item that comes through and the committee recommends that, can we put it down there that we have had discussion on option 1, option 2? This committee recommends option 1.
Correct.
Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
In fact, that could be how the article ended up being what it was, because that was the recommendation. You
Right.
could, that would be your rationale for presenting it that way.
yeah. And so then they're voting on, yes, we want a $400,000 new building with congressionally designated
An opportunity
spending
for, or not.
or not. But at least everybody can see how this group came to the, it doesn't make sense to have an extra 1,500 square feet to pay for the heat and with nothing going on in there. It's not gonna get used for anything else.
And I think
I'm
that-
sure if you had it, you know, people would use it for something, but, you know, to build it for this one designated time, a year.
Yeah, I think that's an important point too, to talk about how we got to that process. You know, the thinking was, why are we doing this? Because it's not going to be used all year. You know,
Yeah.
make sure people understand, we thought about the cost of this, and that's what drove
And
it.
it's the recommendation that we're putting on the article and how we got here. So I think as long as, like, we reiterated, as long as we explain how we got to this conclusion that if fiscally sound decisions are being recommended, obviously option 2 is not a fiscally sound option. It's just,
That's a valid
I mean, it's just
That-
not.
That is a good point.
You know, we might as well go back into a 7,000 square foot building and pay upwards of whatever operational cost to heat it and to keep it going. But at least we walked the whole process and explained how we came up with this recommendation. And then, again, like the old building, I think then something needs to be tabled on what is the best scenario for a town meeting, annual town meeting, or you know, what venue or facility do we use? I think that's gotta be separated, because we're,
Thinking about that for years.
yeah. Is it the Grange? Are those even
No, I'm trying to.
viable?
We close, I'm the master of the Sangerville Range. We close it in the wintertime because it just beats the daylights out of it to heat the building up
Okay.
and then have it cool down. The plaster walls are just a mess
Yeah.
because of that expansion and contraction. And the other issue is parking.
Yeah, yeah, right.
South Sandville's meeting hall is upstairs, you know, there's no handicapped access to that.
Right.
Yes, that's the other
piece.
But in that same area, they have that new building that they've been doing weddings in. I haven't been to one, but I've had friends. there, they say it's.
Timber
Oh,
Hitch.
Timber
Hitch.
Hitch.
Timber
And then
Hitch.
Timber Hitch, I don't know if that's heated.
It is.
Is it?
In fact, they
It is?
have generators and everything. That's the one that,
Correct,
Up on.
the wedding that
Yeah.
Miss Skitch went to.
Road.
the power went out. We had the big power. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's for sale, isn't it?
if
Yeah,
we,
yeah.
if we had our annual meetings during
We
a
could
warmer,
rent it.
a warmer month, we could once a year put up a tent, like a proper tent, and have our annual meetings and have it a real event. I mean, I'm just throwing
Yeah.
that out there.
No,
You know,
no, yeah,
if-
right.
If our annual meeting were in June, let's say, let's
The
do it in
gazebo.
June this year, and do a wedding, like a real wedding tent, like an event,
It's awesome.
and have our annual meeting, and once a year we pay for a big tent to be put up. I'm just,
Sure.
obviously.
But you could rent a building like that too. I mean,
I have a big arena you can always rent. You could seat.
it's cheaper than building this. Building.
You don't even need to rent it, I'll donate it.
If it were in June, East Sangerville Grange
Sure,
can
sure.
seat 100
Right.
downstairs.
So,
Sure.
you know, we could have our annual
But you
meeting
can't
during.
because of the money. You can't wait that long.
Yeah.
We
So,
might have to.
so I think
Sometimes wait until June.
I need to do some more revamping of the educational one slider to format it to be walk the dog, as we say, a little bit more of how we got to, and maybe option one is literally the last thing, and that's how we got here is option one.
I think it's really important at the very beginning, though, to make sure everyone understands that this is a two-pronged
Yes,
issue.
yeah.
That the town hall is not being abandoned,
Mm-hmm.
that there's still work to be done on what's gonna happen there, but the town office is an issue that needs to be dealt with as soon as possible, especially considering the deadlines for funding through the office of Senator Collins. But make sure people understand that we're not abandoning the town hall, that the town hall building still has a path to go down with another citizen group guiding that process.
And that's what we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be
Yeah,
here.
I was gonna say, and that's really what, when they realize that they would have,
Yeah,
there is money there, but it's a whole separate
right.
thing.
There's grants for, yeah, that
Right.
kind of thing.
No, that's a whole nother base we just need to energize.
But that group knew it last week. I mean, those people that were here last week, they understood.
After 2 hours.
Right.
And they're not here tonight.
Well,
That's-
I am concerned about that.
Yeah.
I am
I am
concerned.
too, I hope they didn't change their minds.
There is that concern.
Have you talked to anyone that was
I
there?
only talked, well, through email with one individual who basically, her summary of the whole thing was that the group had decided that there was no sense in even thinking about a 501(c)(3) for the town hall, that decision was pretty much made on the town hall.
Oh.
And that the group had just given up on that part of things.
Oh, my goodness. What,
But she
what
doesn't even
didn't she
live in Sangerville.
understand?
Or those words weren't even,
But that was the perception, is that the town hall was just cut adrift. And that's why I'm
See, that's
concerned, because,
so.
well, what were my first words to you today?
well, this is why I asked, is because I was concerned that was a possibility.
Right.
And that's why I'm here.
But, so out of that is what I told you, that we had come to the conclusion that, hey, we still have control of the building, we're gonna have that working group, and that's what was decided last
Yes.
week.
And we can even recruit more people to.
But that wasn't the message that this individual heard.
Well, that would
So-
probably be one of the first statements that we need to make. from the
What-
informal.
That's why I'm saying,
Absolutely, that's why I did.
at the
yeah.
very beginning, it needs to be made very clear
Yep,
that this information is going down one path, and then there's another path that needs to be followed
Yeah.
for the building. And, but let's deal with this path first, and then we're gonna deal with this path next.
absolutely.
And that needs to be made clear.
Yep,
I mean,
yep, yep.
I just feel like we can still have some information about people that want to work on the town hall and decision there and be like, Back to the Future, save the time clock, clock tower.
I don't know,
You know what
I mean,
Like,
yeah,
we
you're,
want to have that,
I do think that it needs to be, I mean, if we're down at the bottom block, if we're gonna have a working group that discusses and establishes the finalized location and final designs, I don't think it would hurt to say that we're also simultaneously gonna do a think tank and working group on the future of the old building.
To remind, yeah,
I think the one thing that has consistently been confusion on around that building is nothing can happen to that building without a town vote.
Right.
Nothing.
Well, that's what needs
It
to
can't
I
be
think,
sold,
need
it
to
can't be torn down,
reiterated,
Right.
it can't be remodeled,
That's what they need to do.
and we've run into this since we left.
Over and over and over.
The
and
selectmen are
over.
gonna do this,
The
they're about to
selectmen are
do
gonna do
this.
They're
We
gonna do
can't
that.
do anything.
Right.
So Patrick, maybe you think about this in terms of how we got here, where we are. The town hall is structurally compromised. It's expensive to operate. Just facts about it. It's 120 years old, it's expensive to operate, it's got structural issues. The town of Sangerville owns it, and nothing can be done to it without
A vote.
a vote. Just put that in there.
That
so
is, every one of your bullet points are true.
Yeah.
Right, just, again, tell
The
people.
bluff,
Tell
bottom
people.
line up front.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What you said is exactly, I totally agree with you.
And then get
Yep.
on, move on to,
And then you can relax. All right, I don't know
Right.
exactly what we're gonna do with this building, but it's not going anywhere without us all
And then it's
having input. Yep,
Bifurcated right there.
Yep.
Right, a similar but different subject.
yep.
yeah.
That's the off-ramp off this way. Anybody who's interested,
Right.
stick around, we'll take names at the
Right,
end of
right,
this.
to be continued.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can be on the board of directors.
Right.
And that's why I say it's a good thing to talk about
Still
the
blank.
process that we're going through here too, the procedure. Because to the extent that it's open and people like the openness, if you're saying we're gonna do the town hall building in the same way, in an open, transparent procedure where
Right.
people can be involved,
Yep.
that can get people more excited in being involved,
Right, right,
or at least reduce
Well, that's what we
risk.
thought.
right. But I do think that, obviously there was a group of people that wanted the town, the municipal building and office in the old town hall. And so perhaps those are the people that we've lost tonight.
I don't know,
It's
because
just-
the way it sounded to me was that at the end of it, it was all clear that the fate of that building was not being decided. It was the fate of, we need a town office. And the most fiscally sound option is the new build. And then we discussed the future of a nonprofit, of taking over that building, and that, and still selling it commercially was not an option people were really sound on. That coming together and rejuvenating that building. That's the way I felt when we left.
But do you think that there are people, a lot of the people believe the only way that they can be sure that we're going to do anything with the town hall is to vote down a new town office?
Well, I think that's where we need to make sure, just like Diane said, that You need to make this clear, that building's not getting abandoned,
I
and that
know,
nothing
but
can happen to it unless it is voted
I do
upon.
think that a lot of people believe that, right?
Then-
That if they hung on to that idea, hey, if we don't vote for a town office anywhere, and we just insist that they fix the town hall, then they've got to do that to have a town office.
But the bottom line though, and what needs to be communicated
Well-
to the, I'm just saying, what needs to be communicated to folks like that is it's just not possible.
But we've
Right
been trying to
now.
do that.
Okay, the problem is, do you have $15 million
That's right.
to spend on this building? Unless the town of Sangerville has $15 million ready to go to rehab the building and to set up a reserve fund and can figure out what the heck to do with it once it's operating, is not feasible right now.
And by then we'll have lost the money for our free,
Right,
so to speak, town
Right.
office.
and that's the educational piece that
That's
we
the
need.
part that, you know.
No matter how.
That side of the room to
It ain't
do.
gonna happen.
Right, right.
You know,
I think
ifs and buts for
the
candy and nuts.
message that has been done, that
So-
you're right on. You're spot on.
So I think we're at a point where I need to collect some more notes, and then we need to lock in actually who wants to continue going forward, sitting on with this, in designing it. And keeping that level of transparency, and that level of option, and that level of, hey, this is how we got here, this is why we're doing it. But I think I got some more homework to do on this stuff, and I think I need to do it with whatever, with whoever. Do I have all four of you? Am I getting all four of you there?
As long as it's after 5.
That's fine, for this project.
I gotta work.
So do we wanna meet again? I don't know if we can do Thursday night, but it'd have to be at the town office. Do we wanna do one?
Can you get 4 people in there?
Oh,
Hey, I got a big closet.
There's a lot behind that curtain.
I'm so claustrophobic.
A lot of dead space back there.
well, is there a meeting here Thursday night?
There is, I think Matt's got a,
Okay.
I mean, so if we can, you know, even, everybody obviously, but I just wanna make sure that you four are comfortable. And if you don't wanna sit up and be part of the educational panel, I get it, but, you know, I think it would, four of you would be a great panel to have. It actually has diversity of opinions and thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's a good panel.
I fixed your road. Wait, is that quid pro quo? Is that quid pro quo?
I think. if-
Goodbye, Patrick.
I think, all right.
That's okay.
My participation may represent anybody who still has extremely strong feelings for saving the town hall. There is a path forward for it, and I think it needs to be emphasized that I recognize there's a path forward, but we also need to deal with the reality of a town office.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I may be the brick that holds down that part of the group that might be irritated that the town hall building
Yeah.
isn't being considered for the town office.
Yeah.
I mean, just the,
It was considered though, you know, we went through that decision tree, like.
but it's all about the insurances. I mean, knowing what tier 1 and tier 2 insurances involve, it makes sense. I mean, you're not gonna get insurance unless extensive amounts of money are expended.
Yeah.
And tier 2 isn't in the near future because we don't have a group of people who are ready to pull something like that together, so.
And actually, I talked to independent, third party, you know, insurance agency, and they said even if a nonprofit took it over, you wouldn't be able to put that municipality back in there
Yeah.
until things were fixed.
Yeah, I talked to some sources that knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's important, let me just say that, as far as town operating offices, I'm just interested in economic efficiency and saving the taxpayer. But I wouldn't be here if I wasn't interested in preserving that building. You know, by way of background, I've been involved in preservation projects before in California where we saved a mixed-use commercial complex, movie theater, and 1920s commercial complex associated with it. And that's part of why I got involved with this in the first place. I would love to see that thing adaptively reused, but it's just we have to face realities right now that it isn't going to work. Unless somebody has a trust fund they want to donate to doing it, it's not going to work. The numbers just don't add up. And we still have to do something right now for an essential town function.
And I mean, that is the homework that we've been working on for the last 5 years, and I appreciate that you've come up to speed so quickly, because it has boiled down to
Simple.
simple dollars and cents. And what was it Jeff said at our last meeting, you know, they were voting with their hearts.
It kind of changed. He said, I'll admit that the approach that you guys have taken is the logical solution.
Right.
And we are looking at this and judging it in an emotional way. But they were,
Right,
and then that was about, the whole room kind of flipped after he said that.
right. They were.
Except the lady that, or whoever, you didn't say whether it was a man or.
Oh, it's she, it's a she.
Voting, yeah, emotionally, and we were really just voting, looking at what was reality, and so, you know, we've worked hard on this.
Yeah, and it's easy, you can look at other communities that have tackled projects of the magnitude of that building, and if you don't understand the difference between one mill in Sangerville and one mill in Herman, it's hard to, why can Herman do it and why can't we do it? Well, it's horsepower. It's
numbers and
it's just,
Right.
is.
It's numbers and it's money.
Yeah.
And the important thing, you know, when we talk about emotion and heart being involved in it, the advantage of doing this is a cheap answer, okay? And it takes a big issue off the table for the town, because now we have a platform to do town business efficiently. And it takes that whole issue off the table, and we can stop worrying about that and start worrying about what we're gonna do with this building.
Right.
That's right.
It really puts us in a position for the next 100 years.
In whatever the working group for that building puts out on the table for options, could lead to even more money to get it to where we want it to be, back to the focal point of town. Because if it does get in the hands of a nonprofit, then there's even more money that is out there to get it accomplished.
Right, because that's the completely different buckets of money, federal money.
And we need more time to do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's a big
exactly.
project, so.
Yeah, exactly.
And you gotta federalize people, you gotta get them involved, and then we gotta go out and try to, what is gonna fill that space?
Right.
Chamber of Commerce.
Because it's gonna be important with that building, you know, even if it can be saved, is it's gotta be used.
Exactly.
It's gotta be used. And so, one of the advantages to my
County
mind.
Extension Office.
Yeah, right.
One of the advantages to my mind is splitting these two issues up, getting the town office and operations separate and out of there, is it allows us to focus on the town hall, but the town hall can't be the end of it. Because if it's gonna be the jewel in the town, it's gotta have a town to be the jewel of. You know?
Yeah, right, so
We
you
gotta
keep
start
operating the town
Right, we gotta
efficiently
start,
and
yeah.
effectively.
Right, so get more people,
Yeah.
more businesses.
Yes,
Get more
yes.
activity going
Yeah.
on that can sustain that building.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, I had a question last week when I'm hearing about it being an anchor of a historic downtown. There's not a whole lot here, you know, which is an advantage and a disadvantage. It's, you know, we got some things that could be saved, but there's room to grow.
Yeah.
So Thursday night, 6 p.m. Town
At
office.
the town office?
Town office.
Yeah.
We want to do that.
This Thursday.
Then so I'll email, from my email, it'll be TM, kind of what I revamp tomorrow. And if you get a chance to hammer it out, I think it's probably I'm gonna be doing this a couple more times to make sure that this is right in the way you four want to present it. And that, you know, I'm putting on it the way you want it to be presented to the town, the way it's gonna be conversed.
You know, my thought is just make it a roadmap for them. Here's where we are, here's the package we've considered, you know.
Do I do chutes and ladders?
Almost.
Sure.
And then if you get to the top and we don't get them,
Yeah.
hey, thanks everybody, honestly. You know, again, this has been a great project. I wish every project was gonna be like this.
You're still planning the meeting for the 27th?
I think that stays the glide path. It's just this getting down to the refined product is gonna take,
So that's when they're going to be able to.
Present.
present is the 27th, yeah.
So the mailing date
That's
needs
a
to
good
be
point.
established.
Right. Yeah,
Because you've got to give,
Michelle put it on the calendar. I think by Friday, we gotta mail out the informational pieces.
this Friday,
Mhm.
So you're gonna be doing a lot of printing on Friday.
So the only thing that needs to go out is the cover letter and the dates, the hearing dates. It's pretty much the cover letter that speaks to this is where we're at. Here's the background, this is where we're at, here's the
Keep it
solution.
simple,
Yeah.
keep it simple.
Type thing, watered down, and then the hearing date and the vote date on it, and then that's mass mailed. The educational working group, I think we still have another couple weeks that we can refine that part of it. And like you said, we'll do the letters of support and have them there, those two events.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
yeah.
See you Thursday.
And then